Quasi here. And in this video, I'm going to share with you the concept of lifeline shifting, why most people stay stuck in Groundhog Day for years and years in their lives and keep repeating the same patterns of staying stuck in the same 9 to 5, the same job that they hate, the same revenue level in their businesses, why this groundhog pattern even happens, and how to truly break free from it, and how I was able to quickly break free from my revenue barriers, really scale my business from the ground up to doing 100K months in a very short span of time. I want you to stick around to the very end of this video because this is something you've probably never seen on the internet before and never shared anywhere else before, and something that even took me a lot of trial and error to figure out in my life. Okay, make sure you stick around to the very, very end of this video because I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 keys to help you implement this in your life and completely obliterate this invisible barrier that's coming across your way. Before I begin this video, I wanted to quickly announce that a couple of spots have opened up for the free one-to-one consult with me and my team for the Reality Mastery program. Wait till the end of the video for the announcement on that. And with that, let's get started. So today I want to talk to you about this concept of lifeline shifting and what it really means and what a lifeline even is. And the purpose and the motivation behind making this video was really looking at people and interacting with people, even my prospective clients, even clients that I have in the program, and seeing why some of them stay stuck in this same pattern over and over again and why some are able to break free very, very quickly. Now, what you've got to understand is that this Groundhog Day happens because of our own patterns of existence, okay? So there's something key about patterns of existence. And by patterns of existence, I mean karma, okay? How we define karma, and I made a video about this, click up here to check that out, is essentially action. Karma in Sanskrit translates literally to action. Action in the sense of external action, what you do, and also internal action of what you think, what emotions and what predominant thoughts that you have that you keep swirling around. All of these determine your sort of pattern of existence and the fate your life ultimately follows. Now, within that, you want to understand that most people lack congruence to their goals, okay? This is an important word I want you to remember throughout this video, congruence. What I mean by that is basically being in alignment with your thoughts, words, and actions, okay? I'm going to explain that in a bit, but people have a goal, but they don't act in accordance with their goal. We have a goal, we want to make money, but we don't act in accordance with these goals. We're not impeccable with our words, with our actions, and with our thoughts even. And as a result, you keep staying stuck in a certain Groundhog Day, a certain trajectory of where your life is following. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this with a sort of diagram. Let's say this is you right now, okay? And in your worldview, there is only one path that you can follow. This is what happens to people who stay stuck in the same pattern for so long, for years and years. They have a desire to move a certain other way into a certain other goal, but they just can't see these sort of trajectories, the paths that would actually lead to these goals because they have become so congruent to one direction, right? Their thoughts, words, and actions, their patterns of existence, their karma is just aligned to this direction, and they've been living unconsciously. They've been sort of asleep in waking reality. When this happens, you no longer have the choice of where you want to take your life, but you're a slave to in your environment and how you've been living in your past. Okay? So if you've been in the same sort of 9 to 5, you've been in the same sort of debt, chances are you're going to be creating more and more debt for yourself. Even if you get out of debt, somehow you'll find a way to get back that debt, right? And that's because of this unconscious living that happens in your everyday waking reality, right? So in relation to that, there are different lifelines that you can follow. This is one lifeline that you're on currently, okay? Let's say this is the lifeline of you being stuck at that 9 to 5, you trying businesses and nothing really working for you, and maybe you've been making and breaking even in your business and you just can't scale up for some reason. Right? So this is the lifeline you've been following for the past 5 to 10 years and nothing's really changed. You move one step forward and one step back and stay stuck at the same neutral. You want to switch to a parallel lifeline of where you are. Let's say this is you making 10K per month in your business. You're currently maybe making 5K a month. But for some reason you can't shift up to that lifeline. Why is this happening? Because this path isn't even visible to you right now. This dotted path isn't visible to you. Maybe this is another parallel lifeline, but this isn't visible to you either. These paths become visible to you in accordance with the thought energy that you put out, okay? These are all parallel realities and just separate aspect of the whole grand reality scheme. But because of the thought energy you're radiating and the frequency you're radiating, only a certain sector of it is visible to you. This frequency that you radiate is determined predominantly by the thoughts, words, and actions that you've been having, aka the karma, right? So with this, you determine the fate of your life. And the fate of your life right now is to stay stuck at the 5K a month. The question becomes, how do I attune myself with different sectors of this whole reality scheme so I can choose what I want? The goal is, again, to change your frequency. How do you change your frequency? You change your karma. How do you change your karma? You change the thoughts, words, and actions that you radiate out there, okay? So a great way of being able to do that is just by expanding your comfort zone. Something very, very powerful happens when you expand your comfort zone. When you stop living how you've been living and you choose to live a different way as a different being overall. So when you expand your comfort zone, literally, this is what happens, right? You go from this circle to a bigger circle. You become a bigger circle. When you become a bigger circle, more of your worldview is expanded. You can see more of this world because you're not currently sort of cornered in this little circle, but now your perspective has expanded. When this expands, these paths now come into your worldview, okay? These paths that will lead you to that different lifeline that you want to get to, the different trajectory you want to follow, they become in your worldview. Now the question becomes, are you going to choose to follow these paths, right? So most people, they know what to do, by the way, right? They know what they need to do, but they just can't do it because it's so damn uncomfortable. They can't invest money in themselves. They can't invest in the growth of their businesses. They're stuck in this fear mindset and holding on to this money because they're worried about the bills that could come up and they want to be safe because they fear something bad is going to come up. Right? There's a difference between, saving some money and holding it to be safe, but another difference completely from holding on to it so tightly. Because if you hold on to anything so tightly, life will always show you its impermanent quality and find a way to destroy this identification. Seriously, if you hold on to, I've seen people do an 80K month in their business to go bankrupt the next month because they've held on to it so tightly. When you hold on to it tightly, it literally means I'm going to lose it, so I might as well hold on to it. That's what you say to reality, and that's what starts to get affirmed, right? So a very crucial thing happens when you expand your comfort zone. When you've been in this sort of suffering, you start to learn, you're so uncomfortable in this suffering because you want something else completely, right? But now the choice becomes, okay, you know what it is you need to do. You clearly know that you need to follow this trajectory, you need to follow this path, but it's not comfortable because this path isn't in line with your current trajectory of, going the 9 to 5, doing the 5K a month. But now you're faced with an uncomfortable decision. Whenever you're about to shift a lifeline, you're always faced with an uncomfortable decision, okay? What actually causes movement between lifelines, right? What causes this movement from here to here isn't just a thought, isn't just a word, but it's the intention, aka the action, right? When you put a goal on a pedestal and you keep thinking and dreaming about it, I've seen people who are like, oh, I want to make 20K months in my business, I want to do 20K months, but they can't invest 5K in themselves and in their businesses. They can't put 5K down for advertising, they can't hire people, or they can't basically do what's needed for their business to get them forward because they're holding on to what they already have. If you're holding on to what you already have, you're never going to be able to go free into what you actually do want, right? So these people, they're so afraid to invest in themselves and in the growth of their businesses, they never grow. But on the other hand, I've seen people who've literally gone to debt into investing in themselves. They bought courses, programs, mentors for 10K, even though they didn't have 10K to spend. but they actually made that money back very, very quickly. Like they've made quantum leaps in a very short period of time because they keep doing these uncomfortable things and they put a great meaning behind them. When you do uncomfortable things, the key behind that is to also put an awesome meaning behind it, because then that intensity of the uncomfortable activity and basically intensifies the emotion of this is going to get me to my goal. And as a result, that's actually what happens. Right? You can sit on your couch all day and be like, oh, somehow a year from now I'm going to be a millionaire. You can tell yourself that all you want, but without the intention, this forward movement never happens. When you believe and allow yourself to have something, your comfort zone expands a little bit because now you conceive of the possibility that you could be a millionaire. Right? But unless and until you ground that with the intention of wanting to move forward, it's just going to be a daydream. You can tell yourself all of these bullshit stories all you want, but if it's not grounded in solid, concrete intention, the forward movement along these lifelines never happens. This is something I had to learn the hard way when I would take 5 to 10 days to make a decision on $1,000 product that could, a course that could have helped me. But now I went from that point to making a $30,000 decision within 1 hour of having a call, right? Because you start to see that successful people make quick decisions and rarely ever change them once all the facts are presented. Unsuccessful people, they know what they need to do, but they just can't make the decision because it's too uncomfortable. They can't expand their comfort zone. When you can't expand your comfort zone, you stay with what is comfortable and the pattern you've been living for the past 7 years. Okay, this is why Groundhog Day happens. Because you essentially know what you need to do intellectually, but emotionally you're not grounded in that. Emotionally, you can't take that one step. You let the fear run you, not the desire. Okay, this is the biggest key between people who are successful and move forward. They're driven by their pure desire of what they want to create for their lives. But people who are poor and stay stuck in poverty, they're driven by fear and holding on to it because they anticipate bills. And when they anticipate bills, then the bills come. Right? So we're all creating our realities because this is the mirror principle of life. Whatever you hold to be true within will eventually show for you without. Okay? So this is the concept I want you to get very, very acutely aware of. That you got to first expand your comfort zone and actually ground that with the thoughts that you're thinking, the words that you're saying every single day, and the actions that you're actually taking. It's not enough to just think, oh, I'm going to be a millionaire, and not have it grounded in the words and actions, because you're lacking congruence now, right? So the key is congruence and expansion of comfort zone. Because no one ever grew out of their comfort zones. You got to know that. Anytime growth happens, it's because you're not comfortable. This isn't comfortable. If you're always looking to be comfortable, you're going to stay stuck in this comfort zone. Success and really freedom isn't being able to do what you like and avoid what you dislike. That's slavery. That's not freedom, that's bondage. Because if you're tied to your likes and dislikes, you're going to be a slave to your likes and dislikes. True freedom is being able to do anything that's necessary for you, regardless of how you feel within. So now you're not a slave to your emotions. You're actually free from your emotions and your body and the character. You get to choose who you want to be and what you create for your life. Okay, so to experience something different, you must operate out of your comfort zone. If you want to break free of Groundhog Day, you must operate out of your comfort zone. Every single day must be lived as though you're in a dark room looking for a way out. That's how uncomfortable it's got to be. But it's just that you get comfortable in the discomfort, right? There's a key difference between that. When you get comfortable, when you acceptance is very, very powerful. When you accept the discomfort that this is what's needed, aka you put a good meaning onto that, then that discomfort actually leads you to growth. Even though I am uncomfortable, I am no longer the body, so I can detach myself from all of the bullshit that goes on, right? So that's the most important thing. And yeah, to really give you a concrete example, people want to be rich, but they act and think like they're poor. People want to make 20K a month businesses, but they act like they're an employee, and they think like they're an employee. They can't invest in their personal development. They buy the $97 courses, but they can't invest $5K in their personal development and actually doubling down on themselves into one course of action. But they do a million different $97 products, right? That's number one I've seen and that I've even experienced in my personal life. right? When I started to shift from that, from trying the next shiny object to actually committing to one path, one mentor, one coach, then I experienced forward movement in my business very, very quickly. And you want to really model sort of how rich people, how successful people think. And most of the time, how they think isn't by analogy and what other people do. Because if you do what your friends do, you're going to be like your friends. Unless your friends are millionaires. Then in that case, you want to think like them. But other than that, if you want to be rich, you got to act, think, and speak like you're rich, right? All your thoughts, all your words, all your actions must be in line. Because eventually your thoughts will lead to your words and what you speak. And whatever you speak, you're going to be doing. Okay? Your thoughts turn into words and your words turn into actions. This is the unconscious cycle again. I made a video about this, talking about the subconscious mind cycle and how your thoughts and your emotions start to dictate and evolve into eventual convictions, which start to keep you stuck in this hypnotic rhythm in your life. But you've got to be very, very careful of the thoughts that you cultivate in your mind. What sort of emotions you're feeding, which version of yourself you're feeding right now in your life. If you're feeding that fearful little child self and you're afraid to take leaps in your life that'll make you grow, you're afraid to go from full-time to part-time, you're never going to grow. You know, sometimes, all the time, you must do something uncomfortable. I know now in my life, if I'm doing something uncomfortable, I'm doing right. Every single day becomes a journey for me to do something uncomfortable, to expand my comfort zone. This is what I've been doing for the past 2 years, and this is why exponential growth has been happening for the past 2 years, right? So that's what I want to leave you off with. And to really conclude this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 keys to help you really do this in a systematic manner. Number 1 key, you want to consciously change the patterns of your existence first, and then reality will start to follow. This is the mirror principle of reality. As within, so without. Click up here to check a video on that. However, there's a delay time for that. Okay, it doesn't happen immediately because the mirror of reality raises its hand with a delay when you raise your hand in front of the mirror. Eventually, the reflection will match the image presented to it, but you must first craft the image consciously. If you live unconsciously in the same patterns you've been living, you're going to see the same reflections that have been happening. Okay? So number 1, consciously change these thoughts, words, and actions you present to this mirror. You've got to make these uncomfortable decisions every single day if you want to grow, if you want to move forward. There is no other way. Number 2, look for ways to really expand your comfort zone. Look for ways to expand. Because if you're not expanding, you're contracting. There's no staying neutral. Staying neutral means you're expanding a little bit and you're just contracting a little bit more. You're expanding again and you're contracting again. So your rate of expansion must be greater than the rate of contraction. That will eventually lead you to seeing all of these possibilities and seeing that forward movement in lifelines. Okay? That's number 2. Number 3, strive for congruence. This is key. Become impeccable with your word. Whatever you say, you follow up and you ground it. You know? I will never give my word to myself or even someone else if I can't keep it. I would much rather not give the word. You know, I would much rather say no than be like, oh, maybe I'll do it, even though I know that I'm not going to do it. Because now you're not being impeccable with your word. I'll just straight up say, no, I'm not going to do that. So that is a huge key that I've had to learn in this journey as well. Learning to say no. As a business owner, your time is the most important thing. You've got to learn to say no. If you don't say no, then you're going to be a slave to someone else's plan. You're going to be on a puppet on a string. You're not going to be impeccable with your word. Your integrity will not be there. If you don't see yourself, if you don't act in accordance with your word, then you're not going to perceive yourself as having integrity. And if you don't perceive yourself as having integrity, then your word will literally mean nothing. Your word becomes more and more powerful the more you follow through with it. When you tell yourself you're going to do something, you do that thing. If you're not going to do it, then you tell yourself, I'm not going to do it. The more you start to do this, the more you start to show up for yourself. The more you start to show up for yourself, the more powerful your words get. And eventually, your thoughts gain the same power. Whatever thought you keep in this mind eventually shows up into reality, eventually shows up into your word, eventually shows up into your actions. Okay? This is how you become very, very powerful as a reality creator. With that, I conclude this video, and let's just quickly recap. We discussed some complex concepts. I'm going to clarify some things up for you. So most people stay stuck in this Groundhog Day pattern because of the patterns of existence that they live by, aka the karma. Okay? Karma literally means action, whether it be internal or external action. Now, most people also stay stuck because they have a lack of congruence to their goals. They can't achieve their goals because they're not congruent in their thoughts, words, and actions. They say one thing, they do another. They want to become rich, but they think like a poor person, and they can't make decisions that they need to make in order to be rich, in order to move in that direction, right? They want to go here, but they make decisions that help them move here. So this is the whole concept of parallel lifelines and the whole quantum space that contains every single possible reality that can be manifested. Most people go through this trajectory because their sense of self is so limited because they've been living in their comfort zones. If you've been living a certain pattern in your life your whole life and you're comfortable being here, you go to work and then you come back, you watch some TV and then you numb yourself with basically all sorts of junk food, and then you repeat the same pattern next day only to look forward to the weekend, this is the pattern your life is going to unfold in. But then one day you expand your comfort zone, you do something that's completely different. Maybe you take a different path to work. That just expands you out even a little bit. But more so if that comfort zone expander is in line with what you actually want for your life. So you've got to be in congruence with your goals. If you want to become a successful business owner, you want to make more money in your business, how can you become more uncomfortable? How can you expand your comfort zone, but also in a more congruent manner that your thoughts, words, and actions are in line with that goal? Okay? That's what basically, first of all, there's two effects to it. First of all, your comfort zone expands a little bit more. You start to conceive of the possibilities. You start to know what you need to do. But then you keep doing more and more of the uncomfortable things, and it moves you towards this. The movement along the lifelines happen. Okay? That's key. And understand that in order to experience something different, one must operate out of their comfort zone. Every single day must be lived in sort of like you're in a dark room. If you're living your life as though it's a dark room every single day, you're naturally going to be uncomfortable, like you're looking for the exit, like you're looking for something, right? You don't really know, you're not unconscious. The more comfortable you are, the more unconscious you are. Like, think about it this way. When do you get the most comfortable? When you're dead, right? That's the most unconscious as well. When you're the most unconscious, the lowest level of consciousness is basically death. There is no consciousness at all. And that's also the highest level of comfort, right? The more alive you are, the more conscious you are, the more uncomfortable you are, right? Consciousness equals aliveness. Aliveness equals sensitivity. Sensitivity equals discomfort. The more and more alive you are, the more uncomfortable you are. That's how you know you're living, or else you become so numb. You become so numb to life and you keep reliving these toxic patterns over and over. And internally you're suffering, but your body is so comfortable. The internal suffering happens, but your body is just comfortable. Okay? So remember this. Most people, they want to be rich, but they act in accordance with poverty. If you want to become rich, if you want to become successful, your thoughts, words, and actions must be in line with that. Okay? And the three keys are, first of all, you must consciously change the patterns first, and then reality will reflect this. Number two, look for ways every single day to expand your comfort zone. Do something you never would have done. Brush your teeth with your left hand. Go out there, talk to a stranger you've never talked to. Invest in a program you've never invested in and you would never do so for your personal development. But more so, act in accordance with the goals that you have, not just willy-nilly. Even doing it willy-nilly, doing a workout that you normally wouldn't do, is still better than doing nothing at all. That still at least gets you into the momentum of expanding your comfort zone, right? Number three, strive for congruence. Like I said, with whatever goals you have, make sure your thoughts, your words, and your actions are in line. Make sure you put a good meaning to that uncomfortable action that you've taken. And with that, I conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope this was helpful. If you're new to the channel, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell there so you're notified of any new video that I put out. And also, I'm super excited to announce, as I mentioned before, a couple of spots have opened up for the Reality Mastery Program and the consult with me and my team. Make sure you click on the link in the description to sign up for that, and let's see how we can help you take your life to the next level. Now, who we typically work with are as follows. People who are professionals, first of all. They're really looking to transition out into entrepreneurship, into that uncomfortable lifeline. And what they see is they jump from one attempt to the next in the different business models, the stock trading, real estate investing, the affiliate marketing, and they always return back to their neutral baseline, which is the cubicle that they're worthy of. They're not worthy of making more money. They're not worthy of entrepreneurship. They're only worthy of the cubicle. So that's what they keep returning to. Okay? If that sounds like you, click on the link to sign up. Let's see how we can help you become an entrepreneur within first. People who are also existing entrepreneurs who are stuck at a certain revenue level. You're doing the 5K, 10K, 15K months. You want to scale up, but you're hitting an invisible barrier. You have the coaches, you have the tactics, strategies, business mentors. You know what to do. Or you really aren't seeing the right opportunities presenting themselves to you because you're focused on the wrong thing. You're really seeing it's an internal problem. You have an internal ceiling that's basically keeping you stuck here. If that sounds like you, make sure you click on the description below to sign up, and let's see how we can help you. People who are creatives, people who are high performers as well. Okay? And also, I'm super excited to announce the free Facebook group is open for you to take advantage of. It's a great community we're growing, so make sure you click on the link to sign up for that. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time. Peace.